Hey guys, how's it going? Go see Rich here today, and today we are going to be putting in some hardwood. So, first things first, you gotta clean out all your old stuff. If you have carpet, it's pretty easy. You'll have to pull off your baseboards if you have them. And after you do that, you just get under the corner of the carpet and you pull it up off the carpet tacks. And it's literally just a double-sided nail. Once you get all of the carpet out, roll it up, throw it out, you'll see those pieces of wood with the little carpet tacks in there. Go under it with a pry bar and pry those out. After that, you're going to want to vacuum and clean the floor, the space you're working with. Next thing you're going to want to do is get yourself some underlay like so. Now the reason why I'm not showing you the underlay part is because it's so easy. As you can see, all you're going to be doing is you're going to be underlaying the entire part that you're going to be doing. As you can see, I did this, and then I'll put a small strip there and I'll tuck tape it on. And then for like tricky spots like this, you can always leave this afterwards and you can cut in that section, so measure it out and then lie down the underlay and then trace it out. If you had a piece of carpet that was in here, another cool thing to do, lay the underlay down, throw the piece of carpet on it, and then cut out the piece of carpet to that. So, I mean, well, not cut out the piece of carpet, but the carpet is already cut out to that. You'll use that as a template, and then you can cut it out and then put it over top. If there's a little extra, cut it off and then tape it there. Then you have all your underlay done. That's the other way of doing it, is just laying your carpet down and of course just using that as a template. Once you get it done, next thing you can do, or what I've done here, this I've only put together just so I had a place to put some of the hardwood because I'm going to be making some cuts and whatnot. So once it's down, the first thing you can do is put down your first row. If you look at the corner here, what you're going to do is you're going to measure from this edge to right here, and then once you do that, you would put a little mark right here in the center. That's how I got this line. Next thing you want to measure out is how far you need to come back. So what you want to do is measure from here to here, and then after you measure from here to here, you would go off of here, measure this, and subtract this. So the distance from here to here. So when you're doing this part, now make sure that you measure inside your closet if you have one like so. Make sure it's the same depth in here. For me it was, so I lucked out. So I measured here. That's I needed 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches, sorry. So I have 1.25 inches here, 5 inches down, and 1.25 inches here. So what I did is I did 1.25 inches, and then I measured down from right here, 5 inches, just put a temporary little dot right here, 1.25 inches. Then you can either take a square or a ruler or something straight and just go. Now we have this much that we need to cut. Things to double check. You have the lip on the right side. You've measured out on the right side of the board, which I've done. And now that we've got that all measured out, I'm gonna go with a drill bit, drill right here, and then I'm gonna come across and jigsaw this out, jigsaw and jigsaw. Once I have that, I should be able to put the ends in. I'm showing you the tricky part first. Afterwards, I'll start showing you how it all interconnects. Other things that you might want when doing this project are spacers, a tapping block, and this. When you're using a tapping block, it's very important that you use it like this on the edge. So you don't want to be banging it on this lip. If you bang it on the lip, you can damage it. So if you go just above that lip and then you tap, you don't really need to, you're not going to be wailing on this. It's just tapping it. So as you can see, all I did is I drilled out the corners so that way it's a little bit easier. Now I take my jigsaw and connect the dots. That's it. After you get the one piece there, then you have to cut it to length. When you're cutting pieces to length, once again, just make sure you have the right edge. And then you're going to cut right along through here. And if you have a sliding miter saw, you'll be able to go and then slide and cut it. If not, you might have to go twice, or if you have just a skill saw, you can go across that way. So when you're putting this in, especially for just butt ends, all you do is see how it's got the lip on there? Make sure it's nice and creased like so. Just put it down, and you can try and slide it to right about where you want it. Again, it can be a little bit fun, but once you get it in there and get it lined up, you can then, since this is the first part of the floor, I can kind of position it. Now, this wall is extremely bowed, so I'm trying to do my best to deal with it. What I'm gonna probably end up having to do is put on the baseboard maybe a cheater. So just to show you what I meant is, say this is your underlay right here. Take your pen, trace around. After you trace all the way around it like so. Cap your pen, not that it matters. And then what you do is you take your pair of scissors and you can, or a knife, and you can go around it with the knife. Just be careful for what you're cutting on. Do it on cardboard, or if you're using scissors, you don't need to. But once you do so, bam, you have your template. So I did one of the fun ones here. It was just kind of like there. Now for right here, this is where the skill saw is handy. When you're putting down this one, you need to measure this, and then you have to cut the board lengthwise. If you have a table saw, perfect, because then you can spin the table saw and kick it through and it's absolutely straight. If you have to do it with a skill saw, you got to do it with a skill saw. First thing you want to do, of course, is cut it to size, so that way you're not having to cut a full piece when you don't need a full piece. So cut it, move the scrap. Now we're going to cut along here. Now if you take a look here, I have an adjustment bracket where you can set it to 7 inches. Now that looks like this. If you look, it's got like a ruler on here. So I would need it at 7 or 6.5, and I would just slide it down to 6.5. This would go on the edge of this board, and then you could cut all the way down, which is what I'm going to do. The other thing you can do is, if you already know where your line is, if you go like this, you can set your blade to there and then slide it all the way down. After you finish in the closet, as you can see, all done there, you would put in just a scrap piece that you had, so that way you're reusing materials and boards. And so put that scrap piece in here, put your next board, and then after you put the next board in, put in your next one and see what size you need for that side and see if you can cut it out of the scraps that you have. So let's go quickly over what to do. So if you see a gap here in the center of the board, you take your trusty block, put it on the edge. Don't let it be, don't do this. See how it's on the tooth here? If you can, go up near the edge here and then hit it right here. Some people will do it on here, but you can damage this really easily. So I like to do it just above, and I have a lot more better luck just by doing this and giving it a couple love taps. Sinks it in nice and tight. Now if you have a gap on this joint, you see it separated, that's where you take your trusty piece right here, and then you would use your hammer and just tap it ever so lightly like this. Might have to go a little bit harder, but don't start key manning it, or otherwise you're going to damage it. And then you'll see it close. Now if you have a big gap here, you might have to wiggle the piece loose and just make sure that they mate properly. This is easier done with 2 people, just because then they can kind of hold the board a little bit together, so that way when it slips in, it goes like this. After you do that, it's just going on to the next. As you can see, got some trickiness done already. Now I'm going to go and start on the next row, and just like I said, keep using your scrap pieces, so that way all the joints are always at different locations and it'll obviously blend and it looks really good. So for mating the joints, as you can see, you have a big lip on one side, and then let's say this one, I'm going to flip it around, but let's say it's like this, big lip, small lip. All you do is see how the angle I'm putting it in on, and then all you do is you slowly work it down and it's down, no seam. If you do have a bit of a seam, don't worry about it. You can just hit it with that tapping block. So let's say it was like that, or just like this, we'll say. You could either just, well, it's easier to reseat it, but I mean, let's say there's a little bit of a gap. Like right here, I have a tiny bit. That's where you put your tapping block, hammer it, and it'll seal it up. Now, when you're doing short pieces like this, I find it's easier. Might not be able to do it with the camera in my hand, but I line these up perfectly. Use my leg as a bracer. And then what I do is I just put the whole piece in together. Just like that. Look at that. And then of course, I'll sync it up here. But yeah, that's all you would do. Take a look. That is how it should turn out. So, as you can see, some good cuts. When you're going this way, I would suggest cutting the nubbin off the wood, so that way you can make a flat cut, and then you can line them up. And then to mix this, then you can either put your shoehorn cover over to protect this, or you can leave it flat like that. Now it's time to throw in some baseboard. So it's all done. This is a smaller room, but it turned out great. That's all there is to this. I hope this helped you out. Press like if you did, subscribe for more. I've got already some videos on doing moldings, so I didn't bother showing you. If you can do hardwood, you can do moldings. Moldings are so much easier than hardwood. But anyways, thanks again for watching. Press like if it helped you out and subscribe for more.